Hi, everyone. I'm Marco DiGeorge, co founder and instructor at Truthful Acting Studios. We're in acting conservatory located in Orlando, Florida. And today we're going to get together once again and talk a little bit about acting. And today's topic, what I wanted to discuss was uh, simply, is acting a talent or a skill? And this is a question that I receive often from potential actors and students. And really, it comes up with, well, I want to get into acting. This is something that I would like to do, but I don't know if I'm talented enough, or I don't know if I contain the talent that is needed to be able to do this. And so I want to take a look at well, what really does that mean? Because we have things that, right, we like to call things talent that really are skills. And what's the difference? Well, many times when we talk about the word talent, we use it to mean something that is innate inside of us, something that we are born with, something that is inherent in us, instead of something we cultivate. Versus a skill is something that we can learn. And so, where does acting, in really all of art, when we look at that, but where does it kind of fall on that spectrum? And that's really what today's focus is going to be on. So, to get started in this, I first would like to look at a few misconceptions, because really, when I talk to new students, potential actors, even current actors that really don't quite understand what the whole craft is about, I like to break down and say, okay, let's look at what we think acting might be versus the truth of what acting, the art form, truly is. And so, a good place to start is right away. Misconception is acting requires a talent you must be born with. This is a misconception. So when we think of the great actors, and anytime we watch somebody that is great or at a high level of anything they're doing, whether it's an athlete, it's an artist, it's really just anyone that succeeds in their endeavors. Well, most of the time we notice them and we are observing them at the top of their career, once they have already achieved a high level of success. So, like A-list actors that we love to watch in movies and TV, we're watching them at a, a higher point in their career of what they've achieved. But we haven't seen all of the work that they've put into getting and achieving that success in their career. And so we think, because we kind of jump in to their, the movies that they do, we jump into being introduced to them, we jump into them later on in their path, we think, wow, they were born with this, because our first introduction to them became later in their process. So we think, wow, well, they're just naturally talented. Meryl Streep is just naturally talented. Tom Hanks, Denzel, Viola, they're just naturally talented. And because we know of what they can do. But the truth is they've worked incredibly hard to get to that point. And I think it's important that we see that side of it. So when we see the misconception, acting requires a talent you must be born with, the truth of it is that acting is a skill. It's learnable. And anyone that wants to get into acting, this is a very important piece of information to understand. It's obtainable. It's a skill. Everything that you can do as an actor, all of the actors in at the highest points, the ones that we revere, the A-listers, the ones we look up to, the ones we want to be like, all of those actors have obtained those skills through hard work, through consistent and constant training. They have trained over and over for many, many years. And really, you never stop training in the arts. And it's important that we understand this so we don't discount the work that they have put into it. Because these actors, all of the incredible actors that we love, they have worked very hard to get to where they are. Now, part of being an actor is eh, we're illusionists in a lot of ways, in the sense of we don't show the hard work, we only show the result of it. At the end of it all, we do our thing, and the audience comes out and watches the film, or you watch the TV show, and that's all you see, that's all you're introduced to. And so the job of somebody that is that is at a high level is to make it look easy. And so the great actors make it look easy. They make it look like, well, it's wow, this is just something they do so naturally. But that is the end result of all of the work that they have put into it. So the great news is that if you want to get into acting, if it's something that you would like to do, that yes, you can do it. You can learn it. Now, it's hard work. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot to learn, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But yes, it's absolutely attainable. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this word and this idea called talent. Because then, well, what is talent? Well, to me, talent is the obtainable skill that we acquire over time through hard work and effort. So that we gain a talent through that. Now, we can then look at it and say, well, okay, so is there anything inside of us that is innate? Meaning, is there anything inside of us that maybe we were born with that allows us to do it maybe better than somebody else, or have a higher level of success? And what I can tell you there, at least as it pertains to acting, is the thing that will be inside of you that will give you success over somebody else is not the skill, but rather it's the drive. It's the passion. That's what will allow you to gain success. Because if you think about any endeavor, let's think about professional sports, you think about anything in the artistic realm, or even achieving a high level of success as a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. I mean, really in any field, it takes commitment, it takes endurance, stamina, and it takes the ability to work through things during challenging times. Well, in the arts, art is very vulnerable, and art has a lot of things that draw up self-consciousness of the actor and some other things that come into play. We go through a long period of time as an actor where we don't make a lot of money. So there are a lot, many challenges that we go through. So then what is the thing that allows someone to succeed where someone may fall short? And that's drive. That's the passion that you have on the inside, that feeling you have in your gut that you just need to do this. It's a love for something. If you have the love for something, you will work harder at it than anything else. That's the important thing. How much do you love it? How much will you continue to work on it during downtimes? What I mean by downtimes, we all go through challenging times in life. We go through times when we stumble, or times when, even like, wow, I'm just very overwhelmed in life because there's so much going on. How do I keep going through this? Or I'm not having much success right now as an actor. Should I continue on? If you have the drive, you'll continue on. If you have the passion, you'll find a way. And so to me, talent is that passion. Whatever you are, quote unquote, naturally talented in, it's whatever you have the drive for, the love for. And to me, whatever in your life you have a drive for, or a passion for, or a love for, that's the direction you need to go in. Whatever it is, no one can define that for you, and no one can tell you what that is. Only you can define that. If it's acting, great. If it's writing, awesome. If it's music, go in that direction. If it's dancing, go in that direction. Athletics, medical, math, it doesn't matter, right? Everyone has different passions. So, whatever you have a deep desire for or a passion for, and you'll know what that is because it lingers, it's something you're constantly thinking about. Maybe even obsessing over in the sense of you can't get it out of your head. You love it so much. Whatever that is, put yourself on that path. Work toward that path because you will work harder on that than anything else and you will enjoy doing it. You'll love it. You'll love the journey of it. That is what I consider talent. So when I talk to actors and especially new actors or starting actors, and they're like, I don't know if I have the ability to do this. My first question is, well, do you have a desire to do it? Is it something that you really want to do? Because if it's not, then this may be a difficult road. If you're like, well, I don't know, I might want to do acting. I'm like, all right, well, you can give it a shot. I mean, you could, take a class, find out if this is what you want. But if you're just going to kind of do it, then you're going to have limited success at best. But if you love it, if it's something I really want to, you don't need to know how you're going to get there, and you don't need to have all the answers up front. Of course not. It takes a long time to learn that. But if it's like, no, I've always really wanted to do this. It's always been a passion of mine. Even since I was young, I've really wanted to get into acting. I just didn't know if I could. Then I'm like, well, then just start. Take a class. Let's get started. And if you have that desire, that will take you, and it will lead you to some level of success. So, acting is a skill, it's learnable, and your talent is whatever you love in life. That's your talent. So, the next misconception we have as we look at acting, and it's based in this thing, we think that it's talent. So, then we say, well, okay, well, actors are naturally talented, and because it's all about pretending to be the character anyway. That's what acting is, right? Is we just we want to be Indiana Jones. That was mine when I was growing up. Was Indiana Jones or Han Solo. I mean, Harrison Ford was a big influence of mine. Of course, those iconic characters when I was young. And so it's like, oh yeah, I want, but I can do that. I can put on the hat and have the whip, and I'm Indy, right? I could pretend I'm on the Millennium Falcon and I'm Han Solo, and it's all about pretending. And it's a misconception because while there's a tremendous amount of imagination work within acting, acting is simply not pretending to be a character, but rather the truth. Acting demands a greater truth than real life. Meaning, when we immerse in this concept called character, when we immerse in the life of somebody else, and we have to bring them to life, when we reach that pinnacle of acting, we're not pretending. It's very authentic and truthful to the actor. Now, it doesn't mean we quote unquote become the character, right? I mean, there's other misconceptions that are on the fringes that, oh, we became the character, or we have to stay in character, and all of these things. That's not what we mean at all. There's imagination work that goes into it. There's a clear separation between us, the individual, and the character we play. However, the moment to moment experience of acting is very authentic to the actor. The things that we feel are authentic to the actor feeling them. The things that we're saying, we're really saying. The things that we're hearing, we're really listening to. We're authentically reacting. We're truthfully living in this place called the moment, which is the right now. This living moment that exists right now. We are moving through moment after moment after moment. And so it demands a greater truth in real life. Okay, so let's look at that for a second. Okay, well, how could anything demand a greater truth in real life? How could anything be more true than real life, what's happening right now? Well, what we mean by that, as far as a greater truth, if we look at the opposite of truth, it means falsehood, or possibly, covering up or lying. And if we think about life, if you think about how you feel day to day in life, most people, and in many instances, will hide your true feelings about whatever's happening around you. You might hide your true feelings about self, hide your true feelings about how you feel about what maybe somebody is saying, or how valid you are in a circumstance or a conversation. We hide our feelings. We hide our vulnerabilities. We shy away from those. We avoid conflict. Many times in life, we wear what we call social masks. A social mask is simply meaning that, let's say you're in the middle of a store and you're feeling very vulnerable or fearful, or maybe you're just feeling not good enough, but you don't want everyone around you to know you're feeling that way because we don't want them to see us in that state. So we put on a smile mask. It's where we just smile through the internal emotional pain that we're dealing with. It's called a social mask. And so, in those ways, we hide from the truth, our own internal truth. We're feeling one thing, but we're trying to show something else. You come across this in life. I mean, when you're talking to somebody and you're saying, "Hey, how are you?" and they're like, "Oh, I'm good," and you know immediately that they're not good. They're not doing well. There's something bothering them. They're saying this. They're saying I'm fine, but they're not fine. How many times have you done that? Have you said, I'm fine, and you're not? Just because you don't want to get into it, or you don't want to burden somebody else with your problems. You don't want them to know whatever you're dealing with. So we hide and we shy away in life from our deeper emotions and our vulnerability. In acting, it demands the opposite. It demands that we not only feel these things authentically, vulnerability, fear, anxiety, emotion. Not only must we feel these things for the character, in the direction of the character, but now we must express them and expose them in front of others. That's the trick. Because where we spend much of our life and much of our time hiding from these things, now we have to put them on display. And because it's not pretending to be the character, because we're not faking the emotion, because we're not faking the vulnerability, we're not pretending those things, we're really feeling them. It's a greater truth that we're living in those moments than we do in real life, because we're on display and exposed to everyone around us. And if it's on film, it's not just to the people standing around us, it's being recorded for all time. So it's extremely vulnerable in that sense. And so that's where we come back in and say, okay, well, it's not pretending. Acting is not pretending. There's imagination work, because we have the imagination work of the script, of the character. It's those are based out of the imagination, and we learn how to step into it in a very personal way. But that moment to moment experience is very authentic to the actor. All right, so we're beginning to see why it takes so much hard work, but let's keep going a little further and say, okay, well, what's the next misconception then? Well, the next one is, well, because we believe these other things, that it's simply pretending to be the character and you're naturally born with the talent, well, then acting doesn't really require a lot of hard work. And I hear this as well. Again, misconceptions is just not understanding that, well, I guess you're just born with this, so I don't need to train. Like, why would we need to train for years and years and years? What are we really training on if you either have it or you don't? And looking again at the truth of this, it's acting takes a tremendous amount of hard work. So based on what I was just talking about, based in the fact that we have to learn how to access this. So I'm right here. I know I kind of motion to my chest a lot, because our chest, from our throat all the way down to our stomach, it's kind of like a channel that's inside of us, right? That follows the line of your esophagus almost right through here. And so this channel is where emotion comes up. This is where we feel it. If you ever, like when you feel deep emotion, you feel sadness or you feel anger, you'll feel it first in your stomach. We call it our gut, right? So you feel it down here in the pit of your stomach, and then you feel it start moving upward. Well, as it moves upward, this is where we block emotion, is right here. We block it in our chest all the way up to our throat. And you block it by tightening your chest muscles. And you can feel it. The next time you're feeling a deep emotion, you can feel your whole body kind of collapsing in on itself and tightening in. And it's because that's how we're controlling the emotion. We don't want it to surface. So we keep it inside. And we do it that way. Well, just thinking about needing to open this channel, get down to our deeper emotion, giving ourselves the freedom to allow this to surface and come out, giving ourselves the permission to expose our vulnerable feelings in front of others. Well, that's much of the work we have to do as an actor. There's so many things we have to work on. It's not simply pretending to be the character. It demands the greater truth. So the tremendous amount of hard work we have to do, because when you're first getting into acting, and I had these same misconceptions when I was first starting out. When you first get into it, you think, well, it's pretending. It's from the outside in, right? Where we put on the clothes of the character, we act like the character, we speak like the character, and then we're the character. That's it. But really, we work from the inside out. We have to work on where this person is coming from, how they're feeling, how were they, brought up in their world. We have to learn how to step into a separate point of view of the world that we have. Here's an interesting way to look at it. So each of you out there, you've all been working on a very specific character for your entire lives. And that character is you. So if you think about it in this way, the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you move, the way you react to things, the way that what triggers you, what consoles you, your emotional freedom or your emotional restraint. I mean, all of these things that you might have in life are the result of all the different experiences you've had and how you've chosen to deal with them. Okay, so if we think about character, it's the very similar way. So in essence, you've been working on character work for many years. Many, many years. You yourself are a character, meaning you yourself are a result of all the things we would work on when we do character work, and in creating the result of a human being based in everything else that has come before. What drives this person? What motivates you, what hinders you, all of those things. So when we look at character work, now we need to do the same thing for this other person. But we don't have all of these years to do that. So we have to fast track it. We have to learn how to do tools to step into that. And so, but what the essence of that though is we still need to learn how to say, okay, I need to take myself, I need to shed down everything that I am. I need to take off the character masks of myself, and now I need to step over into this other life that has a completely different point of view of the world. That's the number one thing we have to do. Now, point of view, what does that mean? Well, as I just said, you spent your entire life building up the character of you. Well, your character is a point of view of the world. The result of everything that has happened in your life right now gives you a point of view of how you see things around you. Do you see things in a positive way or do you see things in a negative way? Do you have a good relationship with your family or a bad relationship with your family? I mean, what's your point of view on politics? What's your point of view on religion? What's your point of view on love? What's your point of view on art? All of these things. Well, that is a result of everything that has happened to that point, but it's a point of view of the world. But now we're stepping into a character. And the thing is, this character does not see the world the same way we do because they had a different upbringing. They came from a different socioeconomic background. They maybe were born in a different country. Maybe they had better parents or worse parents than we did. Who knows what that is? And so our job as the actor is to step in and inhabit that point of view. But the thing is, we can't inhabit another point of view on top of our own. So the hard work that we do as an actor is learning how to take away all of our own character masks, our own personal social masks. And then from there, step into the life of somebody else. So when we take away our own masks, and Sanford Meisner, who is the approach that my teaching is founded upon, Sanford Meisner once said that acting is not a putting on a mask to become the character, but a peeling away of masks layer by layer to reveal the character. And it speaks right to what I'm saying right now. When we start peeling away our own social masks, our own points of view of the world, our own certainties and prejudices, and we start taking those away, and the only thing that remains is our essence, then we can start building back up our point of view based in the character. Now, this is incredibly difficult to do. It's incredibly difficult to learn how to step outside of yourself, truly step outside of yourself, to truly let go of some things that you feel very strongly about in your own life, and then to truly and authentically pick up a different, possibly even opposing point of view of the character, and then fight for that point of view with everything you have. This takes many, many years to learn how to do. Now, that's even one small little sliver of the work that we have to do as well, which leads us into our final misconception, which we think because it doesn't require a lot of hard work, then it doesn't require a lot of training. And, especially here in the US, this tends to try to be validated by what we see around the country as far as acting training. There's many different levels of acting training, and sometimes you'll just find very rudimentary acting training, meaning it's very very surface level, what we would call like a scene study class. You come in and it's you study once a week and you work on some very simple scenes, and that's considered acting. And while there's components to acting in that, it's not the deep process. And really, when you go to Europe and you go to Australia, you go to some of these other countries, you can see the foundation of what acting really is, which is why these beautiful actors that come out of Europe and Australia, they're so well rounded in that. And we have that here too. We have that in the U.S. and it's L.A. and Chicago and New York, and our studio does it in Orlando, and it's what we call deep process. But it takes a deeper level training to cover all of these aspects of what we do. Acting is not technical. There is a technical aspect to it. The technical aspect to acting, depending on which medium we're in, is, for example, on camera, we have to understand composition, where we are in the frame. We have to understand eye line. Are we looking into the lens? Or are we looking off the lens? We have to understand something called stillness, which is the ability to be seen, whether on stage or on camera. There's a lot of technical things that we have to do, hitting our mark, staying in focus, all of those things. But that's a very thin layer that we put on top. There's also all of these other foundational layers that we need to learn. We have to study psychology, acting psychology, how we as human beings operate. We have to understand how we as a person, ourselves, how we operate, how we function, what triggers us, what moves us, what motivates us, and what hinders us. We have to understand that. We have to understand behavioral psychology. How do people interact with each other? What motivates people as a group? Because this is what our stories are based on, our characters are based on. We have to understand emotion at a very deep level, our emotion. What makes us emotional and why? What moves us? Why are we afraid of emotion? What hinders us from expressing emotion? So we do a lot of training there. We have to train in our mental capacity, the ability to analyze text, the ability to break down a script, the ability to understand storytelling, the ability to communicate, the ability to focus specifically, pull all of our focus to a present moment or to a certain place in time. We have to work on our physicality, meaning how we move, how we stand, our posture. Is our chin up or is our chin down? Do we use our hands? How do we do that? Like all of these different things, our physicality comes into play in character because everyone moves differently based on how they feel and in their upbringing. We have to work on voice because our voice, a very prominent feature of acting, how we use it, vocal clarity, vocal health, our breathing, all of these things. We must be heard and understood in order to for an audience to clearly receive the story. Also, voice carries truth right on top of it. It's encoded right in the sound of the voice, whether an audience will believe you or not believe you. So we have to work on voice. And then we also work on the technical or craft elements of it, which enhances the storytelling. So there's many aspects that we have to learn. So the truth is that acting requires constant and consistent training. Once we begin training as an actor, if we will continue training for our entire career. We never stop. Now the training takes different forms. Early on, you're typically in a school. You can start training as early as high school. You can be, you can train in college. You can, whether you study drama or you just do some dramatic work in college. But to me, the real training begins after college in something called conservatory. Conservatory, which is what, for example, what truthful acting is. It's a deep level process training. Now, why does it happen after college? Well, college is depending on which college university you go to, it can be very beneficial. But many colleges, unless it's a college of the arts, what you're learning is condensed, and it has to be. So, for example, I teach in the film department over at the University of Central Florida. I teach two different directing classes, and it's directing performance. And so, but what I teach when I'm doing directing performance, I'm limited. I have a semester. I have 14 classes that I have to teach my semester in, and it's all I have. And we can go to a directing two class, but then again, it's 14 classes. That's all I have, and everything I have to do must be contained in that. But when you go to conservatory, it's pulled out. Right now, you're studying, in like for example, in our classes, we're studying twice a week. In the university, my classes are once a week, but we're twice a week. So in truthful acting, you get 28 classes in a semester versus at UCF it's 14. So it's more intensive, it's more in depth, and then of course there's multiple semesters. You can students study for 3 or 4 years. So it's this constant training over and over and over, and it's critical. And then after you study in a conservatory, you go on, and once you start applying your skills, that's still training. We must still be learning, whether you're working in film, whether you're working in theater. Every time you work, there's something to be gained. There's something to learn. We never reach a plateau. Hopefully we don't ever reach a plateau as an actor, because the goal of the actor and really the artist is to always be able to do something next time that they weren't able to do before. That's always the goal. I always want to look at the next project I'm doing, or, I want to be able to look back. Let's put it this way. I want to be able to look back at the last project I did and say, you know what, if I could do that again, I could make it better. I could do this instead, or I could add this to it. I love when I can do that. Especially when you go back a couple years and like, oh my God, the film I did a few years ago. Wow, if I could redo that again, it could be so much stronger. That shows growth as an artist, and it shows that we're continuing our training. So to come back to the whole thing, is acting a talent or a skill? It's a skill. It's a skill based on your love and your passion for the craft. So any of you, if this is something you want to do, you can do this. Absolutely. And I really do encourage everyone, try it. Try it out and see how it goes. The way we structure our program is we have an entry portal, which is called our Meisner One class. It's where everyone starts at our studio. It doesn't matter if you've been acting for 20 years or you've never acted before in your life, everyone starts in this place because it's our own proprietary approach to acting. We start everyone at this point. But it's also geared to for somebody to try it out, meaning see if acting is for you. And it's amazing. I always find it amazing that we have students that will come to us like maybe like business students. We have people from the medical fields or from the business world, and they'll want to take a class like this just because they want to broaden their horizons. They want to get better at public speaking. They want to lessen their anxiety in front of others. Just very simple things. And then they get into it, and all of a sudden they fall in love with acting because it really is that much fun. So I really encourage you, if you're thinking about it, try it. Try it. And if you have any sort of passion, if you have any sort of desire, keep going. Keep going. And it will lead you where you need to be. So now I want to answer some questions. I had some questions that were submitted in to me for this week's session. And so let me go ahead and pull those up. Okay, so this goes right into, I think, what we're talking about. So the first question is 39 years old too old for acting? No, no, not at all. Now, here's what I love. Okay, I'm going to say one of the things I love about the art of acting, there's no age limit. There's absolutely no age limit. It's not something that you have to have worked on since high school. It's not something you needed to do when you were in college or even in your 20s. There's no age limit. You can start in your 20s. You can start in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. We have a student that's in his 80s. So there's no bad time or wrong time to begin the journey of acting. And the wonderful thing about in the industry is we need actors of all different types. We need all different ages. We need older actors. We need younger actors. We need, everybody of all different types. And when you turn on the TV and you're watching, television or film, just look around. Look at all of the people that are on screen. We need all of them. So, we need full diversity. We need all different types, everything. And so it's really that's one of my things I love about acting is it's for everybody. And so is 39 too old? Not at all. And I highly encourage you if you have. So one of the most common stories we get in the studio is the 40 plus actor that comes to us and says, you know what, I've always wanted to do this. I wanted to do this since I was in high school and college, but I didn't. I went off and I had a career and I had a family and I had all of this stuff, right? All of the standard things that you have in life. But I still have this desire to do it. You think I can still do it? It's like, yes, absolutely. So at 39 or 40 or 45 or 50, yes, you're not alone. There are so many students that are doing the same thing. They've had their working career and now we're coming back and still exploring the art. And an amazing experience, and I highly recommend it. And and just in our studio, and you'll find this across the country, but in our studio we have again we have actors and artists of all ages. We start at 16 years old. That's about as young as we go. Um, I mean, we have teen programs periodically, but our main program is for 16 and above. But the majority, but we also have students in just about every decade, right? So 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even all the way into 80s. All right. So this person asked, how do you fake cry? And this is an extremely common question. How do you fake cry? And it comes up because when we watch actors on screen, um, we see them become emotional. We see the tears run down their face, and it's just like, man, how do they do that? And is it a trick? Is it something that you just you learn how to do, uh, or what is that? And in the beginning, because of all the misconceptions, like I went over earlier, we believe it's pretending. We believe they're pretending, so it must be something they learn how to do. The truth of this is we don't fake cry. When Now, when I say that, the trained actor with a deeper process, and your A-list actors and the ones that you're watching there, they're not pretending to cry, they're crying. They're not pretending to feel the things that they're feeling, they're really feeling them. And that's part of the emotional pillar that we work on. The emotional work as an actor is we work on how do we allow ourselves to feel that deeper emotion, and then how do we allow ourselves to express it. In life, we feel emotion all the time. We've just gotten really good at hiding it and suppressing it. We're very efficient at that. So we learn how to undo that suppression. We learn how to remove those filters and simply allow it to come out. And when we care about something very deeply, as our characters do in the scripts, the emotion is not far behind. And then we simply allow it to surface, and it comes out. And the emotion, the crying. When I'm working with actors, I'm never after the emotion. I'm never after crying. It's not like you have to cry to showcase that you're a strong actor, but I do want an actor to feel. That's what I look for. I want my artists to be able to feel something and feel strongly about something. Whatever they're working on, meaning in the direction of character, must be important to them, extremely important to them. And then if it's really that important and you feel that, then uh, it will generate authentic feelings inside of you. So the crying you see that you watch these wonderful actors do, it's real. Yeah, it's very real. Now, is that 100% of the time? No, because there's different levels of acting. And are there levels of the industry where they will fake it? Yeah, there are. Especially independent film, or working with actors that don't have that deeper technique. Well, sure, and they might. There are some shots in film where they might actually miss the eyes, or they have something called a tear stick that actually allows the eyes to water up. But that's really the exception. And when you're looking at any of the A-list actors, they're really feeling and really expressing what you're seeing. Um, all right, so we had a question just submitted. Oh, Cinna, hi. Where is the best place, or is there a best place to get involved in film? What other skills should we learn alongside acting? So, as far as film, I'm a big proponent of student film. To first get involved in, if you want to learn how to act in film, student film is a wonderful outlet. And I mean, I teach in a film department, so I think I'm a little biased there. But I just to me, when you're learning acting and then you want to also get better at working on film, why not work with student filmmakers who are also learning the craft from that end and just come together? It's a very collaborative environment that you tend to get treated very well. You're allowed to work on your craft, and you're not expected for it to be at any certain level. So, student film to me is one of the best places to start getting involved and also start networking with future filmmakers. From there, you can go on to independent film, and all of the major cities have independent film. You have to kind of search on social media or on Google to find out what network you need to be involved in. Facebook is pretty good, I guess, in finding independent film markets for that. Uh, I know in Orlando, where we are, there's something called the OIF, the Orlando Independent Filmmakers Group, and that's a really good place to get involved with independent filmmakers that are local to this city that are always looking for actors or people to get involved. Other cities have similar things, so that's really how to get involved in film. Um, Other skills outside of acting. Well, I've talked about inside acting alone. We have to work on the six pillars: our mental capacity, our emotional capacity, our psychological capacity, and then physicality and voice. Those are two of the ones that we work on the least in this country. In Europe, they work on it much more. In Australia, they work on it much more. And voice to me is something I'm really big on right now. Is something that you really, really, really have to work on as much as you can. Something very simple that actors can do at home to work on voice is read out loud. You could do that every day. It doesn't matter what you read, but read out loud. As an actor, it's what we do. We pick text up off the page and we put it into existence. So I would do that. The other thing is language. Work on language. Work on understanding, like if you're in the U.S., the English language. American film is based in the English language. So work on understanding words, understanding context, understanding story structure. So literature. The more you can read, reading is wonderful. But then, of course, reading out loud. Now we're killing two birds with one stone. We're getting some literature work in there, plus we're working on our voice. So really, that's what I would say. Do that, and then the other thing we need to learn, Sina, I would say, is empathy. Now we teach that. I mean, we teach it in our studio alongside acting, but not every studio teaches that. But I would say learning how to be empathetic. Empathetic, what I mean by that is the ability to allow yourself to understand deeply the other side of the argument, to allow yourself to truly step into a different point of view of what the other side is feeling. Because if we have to step into an antagonistic role, well, the antagonist of the story, right, or the bad person of the story, we need to be empathetic towards their fight. So we have to have the ability to step into this and uh, it's not just about saying, okay, we're playing Thanos and Thanos wants to snap everyone out of existence. It's not just, we can't just understand that at a superficial level. We have to understand the why and not just understand it intellectually, but we have to step into that point of view of understanding, yeah, I get why we're doing this and I can fight for why we're doing this because Thanos is the hero of his own story. So working on our powers of empathy, which is not an easy thing to do, is something I would say to to do as well. Okay, let's see. We'll go on to the next question. So, how do you work on an accent? So, this is something we were. I was doing just finishing a semester. We were working on accent work, and accents are extremely difficult to work on. because it's just like talking about acting. It's not simply about pretending to put on the accent. Those are fun to do, mimicking an accent, but it's very generalized. And the deeper part of acting is we don't want to ever generalize a character. It takes it, it's superficial. And to me, it more makes fun of it versus has any authenticity to it. And accent work or voice work is the same thing. So, doing an Irish or Scottish or an English accent is not just mimicking what the general stereotype of it, but it's really understanding the root of it. And so, when we do accent work, we study the root of what that accent is, where it comes from, why is it, why do we speak certain things certain ways? And then we look at the technical aspects of the whole thing. How is how are these words articulated differently than how we articulate? And by articulate, meaning moving our mouth, our tongue, our lips, right? So we breathe air up and it comes through. And so we vibrate that air. And as it comes out, we move our mouth in a very particular way. We articulate it, which causes a sound. Well, the way I may speak has a certain accent to it, which is my habitual way of moving my mouth and making those sounds. That's what creates the accent. I habitually learned how to move my articulators. Well, if I was born in London, my habitual way would be different. And so we learn how to move it differently. Then with accent work, what I always tell my students, you must allow it to be bad. You must allow your accent to sound very cartoony at first. It's going to sound exaggerated. Because we have to work on all of these different aspects of the voice and of the mouth, and it's not going to sound authentic. And we have to go through that time. It's kind of like growing out your hair, right? If I've gone through that a few times where you have short hair and you're growing it out. Well, there's a certain phase when I'm growing out my hair that's like, oh, I just want to get past this phase until it finally lays the way I want it to. Well, your voice is the same way. We're going to stumble through some very difficult phases with your voice until we get it to where it needs to be. So you have to really work on those things. And then we need to let it settle. So the big thing about accent work is you have to learn all of the different pieces of the articulation, but then work on it over and over and over and over and speak in that accent over and over and over and over. And it takes, probably in the short term, it takes a couple months to learn a decent accent. But longer term, it may take 3 to 6 months to decently learn an accent, of being able to speak in it fluently where somebody else will believe that's how you speak. So there's so many different there's so many great tools out there for accents. There's wonderful videos on YouTube that you can look up and just search up, how do you speak in this accent? How do you speak in that one? So if you're interested in doing that, just do the research. Do the research and yeah, accent work it's a lot of fun. And that's the other thing, have fun. You have to have fun stepping into accent work or any sort of voice work. Okay, so I had this question come in. Um, and I believe this was from somebody that's a filmmaker studying to be a filmmaker as well. And the question was, for scenes demanding stillness in film, who is the better actor? And this is always a difficult one for me when I'm trying to differentiate as far as quote unquote better, because I don't really look at art that way. But it's really saying, from Tom Hanks, Al Pacino, Denzel Washington, and Daniel Day-Lewis, like four amazing actors of our time, who commands better stillness. So what I will say is that, first of all, stillness, and this is defined in different ways depending on who you study with. I have my own definition of or how I teach stillness when I'm teaching film. And to me, stillness is the actor's ability to give the audience permission to connect in with them. So if I'm here and I'm moving around, I'm not giving you permission to connect with my eyes, right? It's right here. It's all about my eyes. It's right here. So the more I move and the more I adjust and the more I blink and the more I look around, you don't have that permission. You have to kind of pull out. But if I stay here and I'm very still with you and I'm looking at you and I'm allowing you to connect in with me, I'm giving you permission to connect in with my eyes. That gives you greater access to my internal life. And that stillness, when we do that on film, the camera needs to have that permission to come in, because then in turn the audience. And so really that's what we talk about when in terms of stillness. As the camera pushes closer to the actor, we need to move less, but it's really about opening up ourselves through our eyes so the audience can feel what we're feeling. All four of these actors do that brilliantly. And they have. I mean, Tom Hanks in Castaway was on this island by himself and had many moments of great stillness. Even as Forrest Gump had wonderful stillness. Al Pacino, I remember, did a movie. It's one of my favorite directors, but Insomnia, and had some wonderful moments of stillness in Insomnia. And to me, Denzel is one of those that is brilliant and absolutely. Denzel's one of my favorite actors. Um, but I will say that Daniel Day-Lewis would get the slight nod, but not because of better acting, because of opportunities that Daniel Day-Lewis has had to have more internal life. So, for example, Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. Daniel Day-Lewis spent the first 20 minutes of that film and without dialogue. So it gave him this wonderful opportunity to command more stillness, to command more internal life. Gangs of New York commanded more internal life. So I think he's had more opportunity for those types of films uh, that you could, if you watched it, you can see what I'm talking about. But all four actors, um, quite impressive, I will say. Okay, so uh, I think that's about where we are at with everything. So it's almost been an hour. So I want to thank everyone for uh, spending time with us today. I really appreciate it. I love doing these sessions with you, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. I'll be announcing it on our website what our next session will be, and we'll be going over more acting tips and answering some more questions. If you have a question you would like to have answered on one of our sessions, please go to our website, fill out the form for our next session, and right on the form itself, you can submit that question. And I try to include as many questions as I can in these live sessions. If you have any questions about our upcoming classes or our studio, you can go to our website, truthfulacting.com. You can also email us right here at info@truthfulacting.com, or you can also call or text us at the number below. And we have classes we have a new semester beginning September, upcoming September. We're in September 2021. And it's going to be our Meisner 1 semester. And as I've said before, it's a twice a week program. It's for 28 classes, so it's like a 4-month semester that we do. It's about 100 training hours in a semester, and we begin working on shedding the self-consciousness of the actor, stepping into what it means to truly be an artist, to put your focus outward from yourself, right, and really begin this working off of what's happening around you. So we begin much of what I talked about today. We start beginning the process of that, and I would love to have the opportunity to work with you. Yeah. But if you have any questions, about our studio or anything else, please feel free to reach out. Until then, it's been great having this chat, and I'll see you next time.